I'm Matt Cockrell, the co-founder of Cookbook, and I am delighted to welcome you all to the second in this series of free live webinars where we bring together chefs and cookbook authors from across Cookbook's portfolio. And yeah, so today I'm delighted that we have Michael Daniel from the Gate Vegetarian Restaurant, who has two of his books on Cookbook, together with Felicity Cloake, who I'm sure you'll be familiar with from her Guardian column, which draws extensively from the world's great cookbooks. So Michael started the Gate restaurant, the first restaurant in the group, back in 1989 in Hammersmith, and together with his brother. And as a completely self-taught chef, he's really drawn on his Indo-Iraqi-Jewish roots and combined that with vegetarian cooking in some really interesting and pioneering ways, which have really upped the game for vegetarian cooking in restaurants in London. And today, I know that as well as answering your questions, he's going to be demonstrating and showing Felicity a really interesting beetroot soup. So without further ado, I will hand over to Michael and Felicity.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in Michael's own kitchen. It's always very interesting to me as a nosy person to see what chefs' kitchens are actually like at home. Welcome, Michael, to the Cookbook live stream series. What are we going to be cooking this evening?
We are cooking a dish. Good evening, everybody. We're cooking a dish from the Gate Vegetarian Cookbook, and we are cooking an old grandmother favorite, beetroot kutta with kubas, which are semolina dumplings.
Oh, I love dumplings. What does kutta mean, if I pronounce that right?
Kutta is, I think, sour in Hindi. So it's a sort of a sweet and sour beetroot soup, because there's a lot of sweetness in the beetroots. And then the kubas are a traditional ball in Arabic culture, and this is a soup version.
Oh, great. So it's kind of, it's quite refreshing in the sense that it's lovely and acidic with loads of veg, but then you've got the comfort of the dumplings.
Absolutely.
As well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
What are we going to be using for what?
For the beetroot soup, obviously beetroot, onion, ginger, garlic, coriander, some fresh mint, celery, a little bit of lemon, touch of sugar, seasoning.
Really aromatic.
Yeah, and then for the dumplings, onions again, some carrots, some celery. We're going to put some soya mince in this time, just to give it a little bit more texture, a little bit of lemon juice, mint and coriander again.
So it's fully vegan, the soup?
Fully vegan. Yeah. The recipe, when we did the recipe, we actually got butter over here.
Okay.
But I think when we did this recipe 15 years ago now, it was more around what was happening in the restaurant in those days. So I'm going to take the potato out of the dish, and I'm going to add a little bit of tomato.
Oh, so this is a little bit of an updated riff.
I've moved it on a little bit.
Oh, interesting. Can I ask, just because it's the kind of thing that I always want to know, could you substitute cooked beetroot here? Or does it have to be raw?
You know, when we have these, very good question, because when we have these Friday night dinners and we talk about the beetroot kutta every week, you know, it's a little bit more sour this week, or it's a bit sweeter. My mother says that some of her friends buy cooked beetroot,
what does she think
and they chop it up. Well, I was, you know, I was flabbergasted at the idea of buying cooked beetroot. So
well, what does your mum think about it, importantly?
I don't think she would.
Right.
Well, she won't tell me if she did, I think. So we'll never really know, to be honest.
You probably notice.
Obviously, you know, through the restaurant business, you've got this obsession with what you perceive as authenticity.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure it always is, because you just learn what you learn, and then that's what you've learned, and then you go on and start cooking, and then you learn another way to do something.
But there's something like this that sounds like it's such a sort of family favorite. If it's a Friday night dinner staple, you know, you want it to be the same as it was growing up. You want your mum's version. You don't
I think after the 50th time of eating it, I started realizing the sort of the vintage of it all. Like every week it would taste slightly different, and you would learn to experience the same thing slightly differently every week. I don't know if that makes sense to someone who might eat the same thing all the time.
I mean, I'm always eating beans on toast, so very similar. Where does this recipe come from originally?
Originally, I think it's an Iraqi dish, but my family came from India via Iraq, so it's got an extra twist.
Oh, interesting.
Because when I talk to Iraqi people about this dish, and I mention, ginger in the kubuz or in the soup, they're like, we never cook with ginger. I'm like, well, of course it has ginger. Everyone knows that. Because again, I grew up with it being cooked a certain way with ginger. And the Iraqis don't use ginger, for example. So it's got an added level of that Indian. But I think we've only got an hour.
Yeah, okay, let's get cooking.
And we need to make the kubas and the soup all in one go. The last thing I was going to say, normally you'd make the soup and then you'd make the kubas and then you put the kubas in the soup and let it cook. And then when dinner time was ready, you'd serve it. But I think to try and do it all in 50 minutes or 45 minutes, we're going to make the kubas first, then whiz onto the soup, and then throw the kubas into the soup. And
okay, let's go make some kubas then.
Kubas. So what do we need for the kubas? We've got over here semolina and rice flour. What are we doing? So first we're going to make the dough, and we're going to let it sit because it needs to sit for a few minutes. So
that just improves the texture, does it? Allows the flour to soak in the liquid.
It almost feels like making bread. It needs time to prove.
Yeah.
You don't want it too wet. Obviously, you don't want it too dry, but if it's too wet, you'll have to end up adding a bit more.
Right. I'm guessing it's one of those people sometimes are a bit scared of things like bread or pastry just because they think if it's a bit too wet, they try and work with it. But I'm imagining this is something that if you have made it too wet, just add a little bit of flour.
Absolutely.
You should be able to see that it holds together, but isn't.
So that's that, and we will just leave that to sit. We'll put that over here for now, and then I'm going to do this in the blender very quickly. I'm going to put some shallots in here. We're going to make the filling first. The dumpling mix is ready, so we'll make the filling, get it cooking 5-10 minutes. Then we can make some dumplings, stick them in the fridge for a few minutes so they set, and then we'll do the soup, and then boom, boom, boom. So
your mum did everything by hand, or is she in Africa at the mini chopper?
I think they did everything by hand back in the old days. All right, so I'm going to grate the ginger.
That's it. It's all about
but mother's cooking is really twinned with mythology, and because often when I ask her a question, she'll just say it's just got a bit of salt and pepper in it. No, I'm using about half that amount of ginger.
I was going to say that's quite a powerful amount of ginger.
Yeah, I might take a little bit out there.
And do you think that is that because she doesn't want to tell you the secrets, or is it genuinely that she just got salt and pepper, but it tastes good because?
No, she doesn't want it. She doesn't want to tell you because she wants.
She wants hers to be the best.
But when you'd ask her, but surely it has a little bit of turmeric in that dish. Yeah. It's got a little bit of turmeric in it. So I'm like, it's got any cumin as well? yeah. There's a little bit of cumin in there, and that's how the conversation sort of goes.
A little guessing game. I like that. You've got to keep some trade secrets. Did she give you any recipes for the book, or was it a case of just trying to reverse engineer things you remembered?
Well, I think you grew up in this culture of food that takes you on a journey, and then you want to start recreating things that slowly. How about but then does it fit into a restaurant sort of plate sometimes? You've got this, let's make that thing.
Yeah, but then it's true that not everything that works really well at home transfers.
How do you put it onto a plate? How do you, because you've got your whole mise en place culture going on in the restaurant. All right, so I've got the onions, bit of garlic, ginger. We've got the carrots and the celery already grated.
Nice.
So I'm not going to grate that again.
And that's just olive oil that you've got in that pan.
I put a bit of olive oil, for a bit of extra richness.
Is this what would traditionally be in the filling? Because I'm assuming it's not a vegetarian.
When I've looked at other recipes, because my mother used to use chicken.
Yeah, okay.
So there'd be chicken filling in the kubas, and there'd also be pieces of chicken in the soup.
Oh, okay.
So,
So, yeah.
it was a big pot of soup with,
yeah, really hearty.
with chicken, and so it was rich. And it was a full meal.
But actually, in things like in dumplings and things, I imagine the soya mince actually makes a really great substitute, because chicken mince isn't the most chickeny of things. It's more of a texture. It's a sort of, I don't think you'd particularly miss that.
You can
because
almost,
there's so many other flavors going on.
Yeah, I think people came from a culture where they just ate meat and chicken as a staple, as part of their understanding of cooking. Because everything had, I mean, there is a lot of garlic and ginger in there, but
I mean, great. Already smells amazing. It's also I quite like the fact that there's lots of colours in the filling. So if you were serving this, say, at a restaurant or for a dinner party, sometimes dumplings can be a bit beige, whereas this, like, people will bite in and they'll be like, oh, that looks good.
Everything's getting its kind of branding status in the world these days, and dumplings are now up there. Like, everyone's got their dumpling of every culture. And
I'm a massive dumpling fan. But I actually quite like them stodgy and beige, I have to say.
Which one? Sorry?
Stodgy beige dumplings.
What are those?
Like
Stodgy.
proper, like British, Irish dumplings, like you get in a stew.
Are they filled, or are they not filled?
No, just balls of dough.
Yeah.
We don't get complex with our cooking. Don't confuse us.
So we become big dumpling snobs.
I've never met a dumpling I didn't like.
It's funny when you're hungry in foreign places and then you realize, oh, there's something that's almost exactly the same as but it has no connection.
Yeah. But it's that sort of basic, I think that brothy things are quite elemental human food. And then if you want to, before people had ovens and et cetera, you would cook a lot of stuff in broth. So it makes sense, dumplings to be quite an early food stuff, I'm guessing. This already smells really nice.
Put the carrot and the celery in now. And the soya mince.
So if anyone can hear a strange sound, that is Michael's dog, Chewy, who is very cute. I'm not sure how he feels about dumplings, but probably positive.
I don't know.
Is he quite a delicate eater?
Sometimes you accidentally drop things on the floor because you just can't be bothered. I'll let Chewy just have it.
Yeah.
And then he comes in and he's like, I don't eat that.
Yeah, no. It's a lot of things that I would think my dog would snap up given he eats things off the pavement, but at home he's fussy. I guess being the dog of a chef, got a refined palate.
Well, the thing is, he goes to the neighbors and he spends a few hours there sometimes.
Oh, nice.
He's realized, and they love him, and he plays ball. But I realized, you know what? They're probably feeding him as well.
He's like a cat. He's cunning.
Well, I think that needs another 5-10 minutes of slow cooking. Yeah. It's still on quite a high light. So I think we leave that.
Okay, cool.
And we move straight on to getting the beetroot soup going.
So I was wondering whether this is a soup that has links to something like borscht, like a beetroot soup from Eastern Europe.
Can you imagine one of the first few times we made the soup in the restaurant, and then the Polish chef, oh yes, borscht. And I'm like, what do you mean borscht? This is beetroot kutcher. I'm Babylonian, and we've come along the Silk Road. And I think because of the particularness of that sweet and sourness of the beetroot and the lemon and all those bits, I was particularly like how it had to be. And they're dicing the beetroot. You can't dice the beetroot. I mean, beetroot has to be cut like this.
So, yeah.
Again, those are the kind of conversations we have on a Friday night.
Yeah, I do wonder whether there's some link between. So, do you know? Is this a specifically a dish specifically from the Iraqi-Jewish community, or is it an Iraqi dish more generally?
Again, a lot of things get a little bit lost in, what do I need to do? I need to cut an onion for the soup, because I forgot about that. I've seen variations, but I think certain communities are actually quite particular to themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think the variation is sort of possibly within the Jewish community.
Because whenever I talk to Jewish cooks or just Jewish people that are interested in food, which seems to be a large proportion, there's always that little rivalry between the Ashkenazi and the Sephardis, and the Sephardis think that Ashkenazi food is awful, and the Ashkenazis don't say so much about that. But
well, you'll notice that whenever you go to a kosher restaurant, which is generally of Oriental, Middle Eastern, Arabic background, it's full of European Jews, basically. I mean, I think all the Sephardi Jews are eating at home. And what do I need? A touch of garlic and ginger. Maybe just a couple of pods of garlic. No, there's worse things than chopped liver. There's the
gefilte fish.
There you go.
Yeah. I was talking to, I think it was Yossam Ottolenghi, about this, and there's people asking him about why, and he was championing, Jewish cooking, why he didn't put things like that on the menu. And he sort of gave a very expressive shrug, like,
well, it's also not part of his culture, is it?
No, exactly.
Because Chewy's not giving up down there, is he?
He's not. He's looking really longingly at a box marked pulses. Have you got one? Is he vegetarian as well? Does he?
No,
not vegetarian. Fair enough.
I'll give this a little mix, see how it's going.
So that's a dumpling mix that you made earlier, because it's, or is
was
that the one?
You smell the garlic coming off.
Lovely.
Okay.
And is this something that's always on the menu at the restaurant as well, or is it kind of a seasonal?
No, I think these kind of dishes were more on the menu when we were in the kitchen.
Right. Okay. So
we
now
had time to do a special.
Yeah.
Or,
oh, okay. So now.
These days we are. We're not. Well, I'm not sure if it really works on a daily basis, given all the delicacies of making kubbas, which are really, really fiddly when you're under pressure.
Yeah.
Everything you try and do
like
to
when you're
some
being filmed
degree
and live streamed.
In the restaurant is that something I learned about being a parent is preparing for success.
Right.
Beetroot, celery. I've turned that off.
So this is the soup now.
Yeah, I'm going to put that on a higher light so we can. That's the soup going there.
So sorry, you put in that onion, beetroot, and celery.
Onion, ginger, garlic, celery, and beetroot. And I was going to throw in a little bit of tin tomato.
Nice, and that will have the real sort of acidity that presumably will work well with the sweetness of the beetroot. Do you ever use fresh tomato in the summer? Or
I do. It's always, whenever you're cooking, you're always, shall I go this way? Shall I go that way? Sometimes it's, it's just what you've got lying around.
I think at the moment, also tomatoes, in my opinion, haven't quite come into their own for the year. I'm a big fan of a tin tomato in this country.
Well, I think, as time goes on, you learn to see how it all comes together in terms of that's that. What time is it? 20 past. Oh, I'm gonna some stock I made earlier.
So that's just what do you put in your vegetable stock?
I made some onions, celery, some bay leaves, and some carrots.
Because vegetable stock is interesting because it's relatively easy to make a meat stock. It doesn't, it doesn't vary really according to, depending on what meat stock obviously you're making, it varies, but you're relying on those bones to do their work. Whereas with a vegetarian stock, you've got to work a little bit harder and you have many more options. Are there things that you always or never put into a vegetable stock? Because I get asked a lot how to make a good one.
I don't really know the answer to that because I'm not really a complete chef. I'm more of a like restaurateur, foodie, cooking at home and sticking my nose in food wherever I can. So I still make relatively basic stocks.
But if that works, I mean, you don't want to be faffing around.
I like to reduce my stocks and because there is that idea of when you're comparing things to old meat dishes that they are very, very rich.
Yeah.
What did I want to do is put a touch of sugar in. We had a sugar accident earlier. I'm going to put one teaspoon of sugar in as well. I'm going to put 1.5 in. Okay, so that's that.
I have one question, Mike.
Yes.
You tucked away the middle of the onion. Any reason why?
Oh, because when I opened it, it was bad on the inside. It wasn't looking very. There was a bit of brown in there, so I thought, do I wing it and just go with it? I thought I can't. So I had to throw that bit away.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's no chefy reason. Imagine if we all found out that we shouldn't be eating that bit of the onion. That'd be embarrassing.
Well, it's also the quality of veg and. All right, I think we're going to make some kubas now.
Oh, that's exciting.
It needs to cool down, but I think we can. I don't know if you want to have a little mini taste of that.
Thank you.
Tell me what you think. I'm not sure.
That's lovely. It's really savoury.
The ginger is cooked, yeah, because that's always like the worry, isn't it? Sometimes you got to.
That's good.
You've got to cook ginger slowly, but you don't want it to get sort of candied. I think or caramelized.
That's good. It's got a little heat to it from the ginger, but it's not overpowering. It's really lovely and savoury. Very nice.
There you go. I'm going to plate out over here. All right, I'm going to try and start doing the kubas. We need that to get to the bowl, really.
Okay.
Okay, where am I? Kubas. All right, so
tell me, so what is in this bowl? Is that the thing that you mix?
Semolina and rice flour. Again, there's a constant sort of conversation between, is it all semolina? Is it a mix?
What does the rice flour bring to the party here?
On Passover, Jews do not eat things that swell.
Okay.
So the kubas on Passover are made from rice flour.
Oh, interesting. So
the rest of the year they can be made with semolina.
Ah, so you could, because I was going to ask whether you could make these gluten-free, and you could easily because they are made.
I mean, for years I just preferred them with rice flour.
Is it sort of lighter, or what's the difference?
I guess it doesn't because Indian Jews were allowed to eat rice on Passover.
Yeah.
Ashkenazi Jews were not allowed to eat rice on Passover. Okay, and that is the kuba. There we go.
Nice.
Kuba number 1.
Can I have a go?
Of course. I was about to say I can turn into a bit of a
no, I'm going to do it.
Kuba machine.
Yeah, well, do keep going because I'm sure that my first kuba.
I mean, it's a you need a little bit of. You might want a little bit of water in your hands.
That's a bit late now.
It will come off, but you don't want to. It's funny. You don't want your hand to be too wet, but you don't want it too dry. And I know that sounds like. And then you've got to sort of bring it over, fold it over, and then boom.
For the master, okay. Whenever I do stuff like this, I really overfill it.
So even that might be a touch because you want it. Yeah, if they're holding when you put them in the when it's dry enough.
This is high stakes filming here. Am I
You know,
gonna
you
shame
often think
myself?
you can't do these things just because your grandmother was doing them, and you pit yourself
I can
against your
safely
grandmother.
say my grandmother was
and-
not doing anything like this.
And you know, you're just very small compared to a grandmother. So then you realize actually it's not as difficult as I thought.
Okay, very nervous. What shape are yours?
Trying
Nice
to make them
little-
like a ball. That's why I say you need just a touch of wetness maybe in your hands.
I need to quit while I'm ahead. I mean, I've got a sealed dumpling. Oh no, see, that's why I shouldn't have said that. Little holes opened up. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm a natural.
Where did
You
you
can give me a job.
learn to cook?
Self-taught.
Are you as well?
Yeah. But I'm greedy. So, you know, if you're greedy, you want to learn to cook stuff because then you can eat
Because you
it.
have to, yeah.
And yeah, especially when you first leave
Yeah,
home,
you
you
have-
can't afford to be eating out all the time. So
Have control.
you just so that, yeah. No, I mean, I don't think I ate an aubergine until Jamie Oliver came along. So
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
We
No,
didn't have
but-
things like that in the home counties in the 80s.
Okay. We are doing okay.
So how long, once that comes to the boil, how long does that take to?
See, normally I think I would cook the soup sort of once it's come to the boil on a medium simmer,
Yeah,
probably at least 45 minutes. You want the beetroot to really get sort of quite soft because it's quite a crunchy.
yeah.
And you know, ideally, if you let it sit for 24
I
hours,
was going to
that
say
soup
it's
with
one
the,
of
with the
those,
tomato
yeah.
and the beetroot, it will, you know,
Yeah.
the next day it's like, wow, then you
Yeah.
really get the richness.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the case with so many dishes that they actually benefit from being left to sit and mingle. Unless you've got something sort of like avocado in there that's going to discolor, almost everything, a bit of mingling time is beneficial. And could you, presumably that soup doesn't really freeze well because of the veg, but what about the
I do,
dumplings?
you know, sometimes because I got kids, so I will
Yeah.
just by default make something. If I can freeze, I will freeze a little bit to see how it comes out. It does freeze.
Oh, okay.
It does freeze. Maybe again, when you're a parent, you get back to necessity, right? And I got a child who's fussy,
right?
Likes beetroot cutter.
Oh wow, okay.
So I'm
That's
like,
impressive.
I'm on a winner
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Won't eat anything, but he likes beetroot
Great.
cutter.
So
So,
you know it's going to be all right then.
but then I missed 1 week.
Yeah.
Doesn't like it anymore now. Because I missed my week, right? And take it out of the diet. I don't like that anymore. As I said, normally you would cook this probably the day before.
Yeah.
And then have these in the fridge, maybe.
Yeah.
Or you're going to make them to order, and then. But right now we're doing it, as I said, back to front. Do it quick. So making the kubas and bringing it all together within the next half an hour, and we're almost there.
Amazing.
So.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering with that soup, and because you're on camera, so you can't come and kill me for the suggestion, but like some kind of borscht mashup with like maybe some sort of heavier dumplings with some sort of sour cream, some dill, because I think dill would work really well with these flavors, as well as, you know, you've got your coriander, your mint, something like dill and some sour cream or some white cheese maybe in the dumplings. Is that causing you pain, that idea?
I'm totally lost with that. I mean, I have a bit of dill in a few things, but I still haven't completely got my head around dill. I mean, maybe like if I have some Persian rice, like, oh, that works.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people hate it, so I'm imagining a lot of people online are throwing their hands up at my suggestion. But
I mean, that was the borscht at the Gate in those days was with a dollop of sour cream, and it was very nice. The contrast of everything, and then that softness. Okay, I got that on a simmer now.
But this is never eaten with, say, actually, I guess if it's got chicken, it wouldn't be never eaten with like a dollop of yogurt or something.
Yeah, I'm such a stickler for the way I personally eat that I wouldn't do it. But you're right, a lot of people I could even suggest it, yeah.
As long as your mum isn't watching.
Well, yeah, I think the Indian Iraqi thing is a very much an intense bunch of flavors. And there's not that much. There is a little bit of yogurt and cheese in the diet, but there's not much really, all in all.
Yeah, another question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's from Sam. If you use semolina, do you use semolina flour or is it fine semolina for polenta the same thing?
We were having this conversation yesterday, coarse, medium or fine. I went to the shop, I managed to get some coarse and some fine. I couldn't get any medium, which was what I was after. When I made it with the coarse yesterday, I didn't like it. It was too thick, and the fine seems to work quite nicely. So
it's interesting because I bought semolina for actually, I think one of Olia Hercules's recipes, and I found semolina quite difficult to get hold of. You used to sell it with all of the, the rice pudding for rice pudding and your packet custard. So obviously semolina is a pudding that you would get at school and etc. It's fallen from favor, and actually I found it quite hard to find.
I don't know, I think sometimes Tesco have such long hours that you can spend half an hour traipsing through to find something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good Turkish shops where...
Yeah, I was going to say that's where I eventually found it.
I think just for the sake of time, even though the soup is not 100% finished, we are gonna put our dumplings in.
This is so satisfying.
Do you want to put one in? Because
yes.
they do roll off the hand quite jelly-like or slime-like.
I feel like I did really well shaping a dumpling and then fell at the last hurdle.
Okay. That's it.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty impressive.
And again, maybe we've taken a little chance. We're putting them in straight fresh. Normally, I'd probably put them in the fridge to let them just firm up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be okay.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll be delicious, whatever they look like. And we're not in a restaurant, so it doesn't...
There's another beetroot soup in the fridge with dumplings in the fridge if we need to
finish
another one off.
Ready for Friday night.
Okay, we are actually there. I made some white rice to... Whoops, where are we? I made some white rice to go with it.
So is that what you would normally eat with it, or would it be a dish on its own, or would you have sort of flatbreads with it? Or...
I learned to eat it with white rice, with the beetroot, with the cubbers and a bit of coriander chutney on top.
Nice.
I mean, I think, in the old days when you had the meat and the chicken in there, you probably didn't have it with rice.
Yeah. Yeah, but this just sort of bulks it out.
But me now, having gone down that sort of vegan route, and sometimes you're looking for this one meal in one bowl that gives you everything. So yeah, rice, the beetroot, the cubbers, a little bit of chutney on top.
Amazing. And how do you make the chutney, or is that something?
Coriander, a little bit of garlic, chili, lemon.
Oh, nice. So quite an Indian style coriander chutney. Yeah.
There's a bit here I made earlier.
Oh, yum.
You can have a little.
Thank you.
Taste. I don't know how hot it is.
I find if you're going to get me back for that suggestion about the sour cream.
I mean, obviously, the first few times you make this soup,
so zingy.
Your cubbers have gone into oblivion down there, so you have no idea what's really going on until they come out and they're still whole. It's like making bread again, right? Until it gets to that point of it's there. You're living with this huge anxiety.
Well, especially if you've got people coming around. I mean, that's the worst. It's like baking a cake. You don't know until you take it out of the oven and cut into it.
Maybe
it's nice.
Making dinner based around one big dish.
Yeah, it's a stressful.
It can be very stressful.
Experience.
It doesn't work.
So was this? So this now we just leave that to cook.
Yeah.
Okay. So was this when you started? Because you didn't grow up a vegetarian, did you, or did you?
No, not at all.
So what made you make that switch?
My brother Adrian, who's not here, who I did the cookbooks with and opened the restaurant. He was a vegetarian before me.
Okay, he's older than you?
Yeah, he's a few years older than me, and I followed him into the business.
And you were a vegetarian at that point?
I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't. I'll be honest, but that was when I was 21.
Okay.
And then we opened the restaurant.
Well, am I right in thinking that before you opened the restaurant, you had a stall at Glastonbury?
We we wouldn't really have a stall at Glastonbury.
Okay.
We just cooked at Glastonbury.
Yeah.
We just took some pots and pans and a couple of jerry cans and
so was this in
canisters.
the 80s?
89, before
89,
we did Glastonbury that year.
So it had a bit more of a hippie vibe. I mean, there still is a hippie vibe at Glastonbury, but you have to look a little bit harder to find it. Whereas
that year, 89 was, for my Glastonbury knowledge now, was the first year the police were allowed in.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not saying it wasn't sort of Glastonbury-esque with all its freedom, but it had a different tone.
Okay.
And I'd been in, I think, in 85 or 86 when the police weren't allowed in.
Yeah.
And it was like pure anarchy.
Yeah. God, it feels like pure anarchy now.
Jumping over the fence and everything else, as we used to do. But back to the original question, we started cooking vegetarian food. I joined the bandwagon, and that was it.
And was Adrian a chef? Like, have either of you got chef training, or are you? No, you just liked vegetarian food.
Was enjoying cooking. We'd done Glastonbury and a couple of other little events like that. And I think in those days, we used to go to the market in the morning, either in Portobello Road or in Shepherd's Bush or in Hammersmith. There was a veg store. We just literally go buy a bit of whatever there was, go back, all right, what are we going to cook? Yeah. And he'd be like, I got an idea. He was the one who was more food focused. Yeah. And I'd be like, let's make beetroot kata. And he'd look at me like, we've got to make something different. Okay. Make something different. What are we going to make?
So it's like, what an exciting thing to be able to do at that age, to literally just, go to the market and think what you want to do and then see if you can do it. Because also, this was before you could just get your phone out and think, oh, I want to make a vegetarian Thai green curry. Let's find a recipe.
We had some classic vegetarian cookbooks from the 70s, like Moosewood and probably a Crank's book and Greens from San Francisco. And that was like the early Bible in a way.
And was that because I remember the sort of, is it food for thought in Covent Garden, the vegetarian, quite sort of hippie-ish, lots of sort of big salads and people in sort of batik and things. The vegetarian scene back then, and I mean, this was after you opened, it had a bit more of a sort of hippie vibe to it. What were you like in the beginning? Because your restaurants now are, super sleek, very elegant, proper, lovely presentation and stuff.
There's always been a lot of cliche, hasn't there, about vegetarian restaurants?
But I feel like, was that not true in the early days?
And 90s.
Maybe I'm being unfair.
And people were always, writing reviews and always throwing in about the Sandal Brigade. Yeah. And, in some ways, we never had the Sandal Brigade because we always tried to make, great food and put on a good experience.
Would you say you were one of the early people doing that? Because a lot of the restaurants, certainly up until the late 90s when I started eating in them, did have a slightly sandal vibe. I mean, I like sandals. I'm not against them.
Well, exactly. I don't think we got anything wrong against sandals. It was just like that image of Jesus-like sandals. Yeah. Vegetarianism. Of course, there was the odd one or two who, would ask you, why isn't there brown rice on the menu?
People that mistook it for a sort of whole food restaurant as opposed to a vegetarian restaurant.
Essentially, we were two guys who didn't have a job, found a kitchen in Hammersmith. I don't know if you've been to the restaurant in Hammersmith or not. It's above an artist. It's an old artist studio next to a Rudolf Steiner community center. So we found this kitchen, had an opportunity. I thought, how's anyone even going to find this place? Because it's so off the beaten track. But we just started cooking. Friends and family came that Saturday night. We got some money in. With that money, we went to the market and bought some fruit and veg, and we just started cooking.
And what were who were your early customers? Because I'm assuming it wasn't just your friends and family coming to be nice.
No, actually, Hammersmith was full of music business offices in the early 90s. And we used to take luncheon vouchers.
Oh, wow.
And they would be given luncheon vouchers for staff lunch. Yeah. So anywhere that would take luncheon vouchers, they were happy to spend them. Yeah. So very quickly, we actually got quite a nice little lunchtime following.
And quite a cool one as well.
We were very cheap and cheerful. We were sort of, £2 for a starter and £3.50 for £3 for a main course. And
because that presumably wasn't that far from where the River Cafe, that's also Hammersmith, absolutely. And always started off as a canteen.
A year or a few after, and Jamie was down there, and people were coming into the restaurant all the time saying, "Have you heard about Jamie Oliver? Have you met Jamie Oliver?" I'm like, every day someone walks through the door about how you met Jamie Oliver, and it was this whole sort of thing going on. This, and then we started playing football.
How'd you met Jamie
But then
Oliver?
we played football. River Cafe phoned us up one. This is fancy game of football. River Cafe versus the Gate.
Amazing.
So we were like, yeah, sure.
Representing the vegetarians. Yeah.
And we got thrashed. And then Jamie scored about 5-6 goals.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was quite a fun afternoon. And
have you ever mentioned it to him since, or
I haven't
too
seen
painful?
him since.
Okay. And he left Hammersmith and never came back.
I didn't really know who he was then. It was
Yeah.
like, it was like this young guy, and there was all the River Cafe had a lot of noise, and we were making our own little bit of noise down there. So Ruth and Rose used to come in once in a while for lunch. And,
oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, and the Hammersmith site, is that still the same site as you opened back in 89?
Well, it's had a refurbishment since then, but essentially, it's the same room.
And then what made you expand? Because if you guys were the ones cooking in Hammersmith, obviously when you expand your business, you have to it becomes something quite different from two brothers going to the market, thinking, what can we do?
Let's have a quick look at, oh, look. The cupboards have risen. That is really, I think that's quite good. I think we're going to take one out and see how it is.
I think that's mine.
Let's take one out.
Shape. I love the color they've gone. Everything, beetroot is so cool like that. It makes everything look glamorous.
Are you going to taste this?
I mean, I'd love to. Having never eaten one before, I can't.
Okay,
I can't be an expert. Yeah.
I want to see if that's what I'm really looking for. Is it cooked through?
Yeah.
Otherwise, the semolina is going to be a little
bit doughy.
raw, right? Yeah. It's a touch doughy, but it's almost there.
Okay.
I think a few more minutes and
exciting, very exciting. So you just, sorry, is there something else?
I didn't put any lemon in it. I can taste that now. I think we can still throw a bit of lemon in.
You can get away with it.
Yeah. Where were we talking
Sorry,
about? The old days
I was
of the
asking.
Gate?
Yeah, I was sort of asking how it felt when you expanded to relinquish control of some of the kitchen, because it sounds like it was such a personal.
Well, in the early
Gate.
days, you almost knew everybody who came through the door, and you adored your customers, and they adored you. It was very difficult, very, very difficult. And I remember somebody once coming into the restaurant, and I was really concerned about their opinion of the food, and were they going to like it, and all of that. And I phoned him on Monday and said, how was dinner? How was dinner? He says, Michael, the food was amazing. The problem you've got. I'm like, what's that? He goes, you're never going to be able to expand. I'm like, why not? He goes, because you've got really good food that is cooked to order.
Yeah.
If you want to expand a restaurant, it's not so easy. Because to have that dedication one time after another at a certain price level is difficult. Yeah. So that's always our challenge, really.
So what made
those
you?
are the roots of the Gate. The roots of the Gate were me and Adrian in the kitchen, or Adrian in the kitchen, me helping him, cooking, always trying to see how we could evolve things, take it forward. Yeah.
So what made you make that leap?
Desire, I guess, to grow, and I'm not very good at sitting still. And
right. Okay. So
being content, I guess. And people in the early days, we had one little restaurant around the back behind the Apollo, and people came in all the time telling me how amazing the food was, and I was like, people really like this, and I'm like, and I had a belief. I had a belief that I could take it forward. And in 2012, the landlord shut me down because they were refurbishing the whole site, so they closed the restaurant down. So in 2012, I opened the Gate in Islington to sort of keep the Gate going. And then in 2013, I got the site back in Hammersmith. So in some sort of so you could then focus, I ended up having 2 restaurants and then expanding in that sort of way.
And now you've got 4, is that right?
And then I took on St.
Marylebone and then St. John's Wood, the last few years. So wow.
But post-COVID, you realize you need to balance all this, because before COVID, you were just climbing this mountain, climbing, not even looking right or left or how far down it is below you. And then COVID's come and done what it's done.
And you have to
everywhere,
look around.
not just in the the restaurant business. And so now it's more about consolidation and surviving, really.
One of the things that I found really interesting, because I came to eat with you at the Marylebone restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and the breadth of the menu, and I mean that in a good way. Well, it wasn't. Sometimes when you get a menu and you can see things from around the world, it sort of puts your sort of antennae out as to, does this place specialize in anything? But because you've got that vegetarian specialism, it felt completely natural to have different vegetarian things from around the world. Where do you get your inspiration from for new dishes?
Well, I think it's a mix of things. I mean, there's definitely a constant food culture around us that you're hearing about things, so you pick up on new things all the time. The vegan world is constantly reinventing.
We have a couple of questions. A couple from Mex Ibrahim, which are related, Mikey. So, do you have a recipe from your grandmother? And do you have a personal favorite dish which you don't serve in the restaurant?
Oh, I don't know the answer to these questions. They're tough because I think favorite dishes are constantly about moments and times of the year. This is, I would say, one of my favorite things. I mean, my biggest thing I probably eat all the time is chili and coriander chutney, which is not really food.
What do you eat? You just eat that on everything, or would you just cook up some rice and have it with that? Or
it does go with a bit of everything. It does. Do I have a favorite dish? I don't know the answer to that question. I think I'm too moody with my food.
Okay, from your grandmother.
My grandmother. My grandmother used to make a lot when I was a kid, sort of especially for me. I'd go around there and all of that. She would make me a rice and lentil dish called khichdi, with red lentils, and that was my kind of go-to dish with a little bit of sort of mango pickle and salad. Nice,
because that's real sort of comfort food, isn't it? That's like I think khichdi is kind of a dish that you would sometimes have when you're ill, or it's like, because that's what khichdi sort of started as, and then the British obviously came and put a load of weird stuff into it and renamed it.
That's right, because the first time I went to the Ivy, it was like khichdi with fish. I'm like, hold on a minute.
Yeah, obviously we wouldn't eat any lentils or anything like that. So yeah.
Is there a dish that I eat at home that I don't put on back to the khichdi, I think the madajra, where the rice and the lentils, I cook that a lot at home as a vegan. I find it sort of the week goes where it goes with food. Sometimes you're in the mood for soups and healthier dishes.
I have a follow-up question from Linda. Linda notices that you use semolina for the kubba. In Baghdad, she used to use rice that was ground down with wheat, and she's used semolina only once. It makes the kubba very doughy, she finds. Have you ever tried it with rice flour, Mike?
Yeah, no, I have made it with rice flour, and sometimes I'm in a split between what I prefer. But I went with the recipe of the book today, which was a semolina with some rice flour, which is a mix of the two.
Does rice flour give a slight grittiness to them? Or because quite often when you use rice flour in gluten-free baking, it has a slight grittiness, which I quite like. I put rice flour in my shortbread because I like that grittiness.
Rice flour, I mean, I bought rice flour today, but I have sometimes, I'll soak rice for 24 hours and then I will actually grind it and make the kubbas out of, ground rice. So then you might get a bit of bitterness because it's really hard to completely grind it down.
I have a slightly rephrased question as well, just a follow-up. So in terms of the dish, not so much what you don't serve in the restaurant, but you won't serve in the restaurant because it's not commercial and it's an acquired taste. And you believe it should be on the menu.
Is this from one of your business partners? It's a truth-telling session.
That's a really good question. Right now, again, I don't know the answer. Is something I want to put on the menu? Oh, it's too difficult of a question. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer.
Should we dish up the soup? So we've got 5 minutes left tonight.
Disintegrate.
More importantly, everyone wants to see the soup.
Okay.
Look at the colour on that. That's gorgeous. Something so satisfying about soup and dumplings.
Oh, I think that's all we've got room for in there. What are we doing with this? Where are we putting this?
Put it there,
over
maybe?
here? A little bit messy. Yeah, I think normally it would be served in a bit more of a bigger, deeper bowl dish. And I made some rice, and as I said, teaspoon of coriander chutney. So
nice. But really, from start to finish, I know you said that you would chill the dumplings and things, and you might make the soup in advance, but that's not, you know, a lot of the time is the soup bubbling away, and you can make the, you know, it's not a particularly, given how many different parts there are, you know, stuffed dumplings and a soup, it's not a particularly labor intensive dish for the result that you get. I would say. I
think it's more labor intensive than I made it look today. Because I think I've got it a little bit down to a fine art where I said, yeah, we're going to do this in 45 minutes. And we did it in like, you know, 20 minutes probably in the end, because I was so focused on, because I think normally when I do this in a more leisurely way, I think I'm going to cook beetroot kutta with kubas tonight. I'm like, this is taking me forever. Yeah. Because I'm like, I'll do one thing and then I'll tidy up and then, I need to do this now. And even peeling and slicing beetroots, you know, it can take time. And,
well, that's why I asked about the cooked beetroot at the beginning, because much as I love a fresh beetroot, it does leave you looking like a crime scene. So sometimes those cooked beetroots are quite useful, I would say. Can I try it?
Of course, I'm gonna give you a bowl. Where's that bowl?
So exciting. Wanted to, I don't know if there are any more questions. I had another question for you if there aren't any more. I think we've got about 3 minutes.
Only one comment. Interested in the soup pot, assumed it's going to be chilled.
Would you ever eat this chilled?
I personally wouldn't.
But I mean, rules are made for breaking. I mean,
no, it's true. I can imagine why, with the sweetness and everything, it would be very nice chilled.
I mean, not to say to offend with the borscht word again, but you can have a lovely summer chilled borscht. So potentially,
well, I think on that level,
if Michael's mum's not there, you could do it cold.
We just have to accept that we are a global community, and
I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
Okay. The easy one first. I don't want to give you a hard tap, Michael, but the easy one first is, do you have any other good ideas for beetroot?
Do I have any other good ideas for beetroot? Well, it's good for juicing, that's for sure. It's great in salads. You know, you make those like Asian salads where you julienne the beetroot and the other vegetables. So yeah, I mean, beetroot you can do a lot with.
A question from Kathy, which I don't think you're going to like. When are you going to open another branch?
I'm not sure.
Where does Kathy live?
And she wants to know in South London.
I'm feeling this was a loaded question.
Okay,
Kathy.
so there you go. The beetroot kutta and a little dollop of coriander chutney on top.
So Kathy, I think Michael swerved that question.
I think post COVID and you know, that thing that has happened, taking it easy right now, consolidating, just want to focus on the day-to-day living and trying to put the restaurants back together. And maybe if anyone's looking for a job, we are looking for staff. I mean,
this is so good. This is really nice.
Much.
It's not a little bit tangy, it's a little bit sweet. It's got the vegetables are kind of still got integrity. I haven't tried a dumpling yet, which I'm going to before wrapping up. Just, you know, so everyone, I'm sure this one's mine. It looks very good.
Question from Faye. Mike, any dishes that you put on the menu in the restaurant that didn't go down as well as you might have anticipated?
You know, after 35 years of, you know, putting dishes on and pulling them off, you know, one time we made a crespellini, I remember, romping out there. Everyone loved it because of the filling, whatever it was. Probably wouldn't do that today. 6 months later, we do it again. Aidan was like, doesn't work. It doesn't work. We did it on that last menu for a couple of months. It was going out great, blah. He goes, I don't know. It just doesn't work at the moment.
It's over.
I don't know what was going on. Dare I say, I think we were actually buying the sheets of pasta at that time.
Right.
You know, because that was the next progression after doing everything yourself.
Yeah, you delegate.
You start buying certain things in, and So sometimes things will come off just because for whatever reason, you know, the universe is just going against that dish, or for some reason it just doesn't work. So you take it off for those reasons. It's very easy. You can get bored, right? You serve the same dish, you cook it, you want constant movement.
Amazing. We have hit 7. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Michael. That was absolutely delicious and also really interesting to watch you cook and see your process and things. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm sorry about the technical disaster, but if you would like to know more about more cookbook events, do follow them on Eventbrite for more such exciting evenings. And also don't forget both the Gate books actually are available on Cookbook, along with more than 600 other titles. So yeah, thanks. Have a good evening. I really recommend making this dish. It's delicious.
Thank you.
I'm going to finish this. That's all right. Really good.